You know, the situation in the Red Sea, the Gulf of Aden. It's just been this ongoing headache for global trade.
Absolutely, a major disruption.
And since, what, March 15th, the U.S. military has been running Operation Ruff Rider,
Mm-hmm.
the stated aim being basically stop the Houthi threat to ships there.
That's the goal, yeah. Degrade their ability to keep launching these attacks that are, well, really impacting trade through the Suez Canal.
Okay, so now there's this new, pretty serious development we need to dig into.
Right.
Houthi-controlled media, they're reporting a U.S. strike hit a migrant detention center. This was apparently yesterday, Monday, April 28th, in Sanaa, Yemen.
Yeah, and the initial claim is significant. At least 35 people killed.
Wow. Okay. And this is happening, like you said, against the backdrop of these Houthi attacks. They've been targeting Israeli and Western ships for over a year now.
Mm-hmm. Citing solidarity with Palestinians, especially since the Hamas attack back in October 2023. That's their justification.
So this claim about the detention center, it lands right in the middle of this ongoing conflict.
Exactly. And just before this alleged strike was reported, on Sunday, CENTCOM, that's U.S. Central Command.
Right, overseeing the Middle East.
They put out a statement, said they'd hit over 800 targets in Yemen since mid-March.
800 since mid-March.
Yeah. And they claimed hundreds of Houthi fighters and leaders killed in those strikes.
So you have these two narratives crashing together almost. Houthi report of a devastating civilian strike, U.S. military report of widespread successful strikes against Houthi targets.
It's a stark contrast, isn't it? One side reporting this awful incident at a detention center, the other highlighting, the intensity and claimed effectiveness of their military campaign.
It really shows how hard it is to know what's truly happening. Information itself is, well, it's part of the battlefield.
Definitely.
Okay, let's focus on the alleged strike. The main source is Houthi media, Al Masirah TV specifically.
That's right. Al Masirah reported U.S. strikes hitting what they called a detention center, holding African migrants.
And the number they gave was 35 bodies.
Pulled from the rubble was the phrase they used.
Okay. And did they give more detail? They cited the Houthi administration's interior ministry.
They did. That ministry claimed the center held 115 migrants, all from Africa.
And Al Masirah showed footage.
Yeah, they broadcast visuals that they said showed bodies under debris, rescuers working. Pretty grim stuff.
And this is crucial, independent confirmation.
Is not available, no.
Mm.
The reports acknowledge that news agencies like AFP, for instance, couldn't independently verify the claim or the death toll.
And AFP asked the U.S. military for comment.
They did, but according to the source material, no response was provided at that time.
Right. That lack of independent verification is something you, the listener, really have to keep in mind here.
Absolutely critical context.
Okay, now shifting to the U.S. military's perspective. CENTCOM's report on Operation Ruff Rider. Over 800 strikes. What else did they claim?
Well, besides the number of targets, they claimed substantial success. Hundreds of fighters killed, and they said numerous Houthi leaders as well.
And they got specific about what they were hitting.
Yes, they listed things like command and control centers, air defense systems, places making or storing advanced weapons.
So the focus seems clearly on military capability.
That's the picture they presented, yes.
Mm.
Dismantling the Houthis' ability to launch those Red Sea attacks.
And they even tried to quantify the impact. Said attacks were down.
They did. This really stood out. They claimed a 69% drop in ballistic missile launches.
69%.
And a 55% decrease in those one-way attack drones.
So if those numbers are accurate, that suggests their campaign is having a significant effect.
It would suggest a considerable disruption, yes. CENTCOM also made sure to mention Iran again.
Ah, the alleged Iranian support.
Right. They reiterated their view that Iran's backing is, crucial for the Houthis being able to keep this up.
And the overall message from CENTCOM, was it mission accomplished or?
Oh, no, not at all. It was more like, we're not stopping. They talked about commitment to ratchet up the pressure.
Until when?
Until, quote, the objective is met, which they define as restoring freedom of navigation and American deterrence in the region.
So the operation continues, pressure increasing.
That was the clear message, yes. It suggests this is far from over from the U.S. perspective.
Okay, so despite CENTCOM claiming these successes, these big drops in attacks, the Houthis are still claiming they're attacking ships, attacking Israel even. How does that square?
Well, degrading capability isn't the same as eliminating it entirely, right? Maybe they can still launch some attacks, or maybe some claims are just that claims. It's hard to say for sure.
And Houthi media keeps reporting other incidents too, not just the alleged detention center strike.
Correct. Al Masira, on the Sunday before this latest alleged incident, claimed U.S. strikes hit Sanaa, the capital.
Casualties reported there too.
Yes, they reported at least 8 people killed, others wounded, and again showed footage of rubble, alleged human remains.
And there were even earlier reports that same day.
Other Houthi media reports mentioned earlier strikes on Sanaa also causing casualties, 2 killed and more wounded in those.
It just paints this picture of ongoing back-and-forth violence, and again, that challenge of verifying anything independently.
It really does. And we should probably remind ourselves, U.S. military action against the Houthis isn't brand new.
No, it started under Biden.
Right. And Trump has also indicated he'd continue targeting them to protect shipping. So there's some continuity there in U.S. policy, despite other differences.
And the Houthis themselves, they're not just focused on the Red Sea. They're part of a much bigger, longer conflict within Yemen.
Exactly. They've been fighting a Saudi-led coalition, which backs the internationally recognized government since 2015. They control large parts of the country, including Sanaa.
So the Red Sea attacks fit into that larger picture, plus their alignment with Iran, their stated support for Palestinians. It's complicated.
Very. Local dynamics, regional power plays, international links. It all feeds into this.
Yeah.
Like Hamas and Hezbollah, they're seen as part of that Iranian-aligned axis of resistance.
And the impact on global trade via the Suez Canal, that's undeniable. That's why it gets so much attention.
For sure. It hits supply chains, increases costs. It has tangible global economic effects.
Okay, so wrapping this up. What we have are these extremely serious but currently unverified allegations from Houthi media about a U.S. strike killing dozens of migrants.
Set against U.S. military claims from CENTCOM that their ongoing operation is successfully degrading Houthi military power.
But the conflict clearly isn't over. Claims and counterclaims are flying, and getting solid independent facts is incredibly difficult.
Precisely. And through all this, you see reports of human costs, the alleged deaths at the detention center, the reported casualties in Sanaa, real people affected on the ground.
So maybe the thing for you, the listener, to think about is this. When you hear about military interventions in complex conflict zones like Yemen, how do you navigate the information fog, especially when these actions might intersect with vulnerable groups, like migrants in this alleged case? What are the broader implications? It's definitely not a simple picture.